When night falls, the darkness starts to speak. Between each breath and the silence there are whispers no one was meant to hear. This is Night Whispers, where the dark has a story to tell. It was late November, 2024, cold enough that the air smelled like snow, warm enough that the mall still felt alive. I had just turned 18 and was at the Walden Galleria in Buffalo doing my usual early Christmas shopping. The lights, the carols, the faint scent of cinnamon from the food court had all put me in that familiar holiday mood. I had no idea that what started as a cheerful evening would end as one of the most terrifying nights of my life. He looked harmless, maybe in his early 60s, with a soft voice and kind eyes that reminded me of someone's grandpa. There was something almost festive about him, like a thinner version of Santa Claus in street clothes. We chatted casually about the decorations, the crowds, small talk that felt comforting at first. But as the mall grew quieter and the lights dimmed slightly, I noticed how his gaze lingered longer than it should have, and that easy feeling began to fade. He started talking about how long he'd been visiting this mall, said he'd come here since it first opened, and that he was worried it might shut down someday. His tone was nostalgic, even sweet, and I found myself nodding politely. Then he said something that made my stomach twist a little, that I reminded him of his daughter. He pulled out his phone to show me a photo of a teenage girl who looked nothing like me. She could have been 18, but he looked old enough to be her grandfather. At first I thought he was just being friendly, maybe a little lonely, the kind of man who liked small talk with strangers to fill the silence. But as the conversation went on, something about the way he watched me started to feel off. His eyes didn't match his gentle tone. They studied me, almost memorizing. When he mentioned again how I reminded him of his daughter, that uneasy flutter in my chest turned into a quiet alarm I tried to ignore. I laughed politely, pretending to see the resemblance just to keep things from getting awkward. But the longer I looked at that photo, the stranger it felt. The girl wasn't smiling. It looked like some kind of candid picture taken without her noticing. The background didn't seem like a family photo either. It looked like a parking lot at night. I remember feeling a chill run through me. I handed his phone back suddenly, eager to end the conversation and leave. I walked out into the cold night, the air sharp against my skin, and told myself to stop overthinking. He was just a weird old guy, I thought. The parking lot was half empty, the sound of my boots echoing as I reached my car. Once inside, I locked the doors out of habit and took a deep breath. The mall lights glowed faintly in my rearview mirror as I pulled away, unaware that the safest part of my night had just ended. That Thursday night was quiet, the kind of silence that feels heavier in the suburbs. My brother was out as usual, leaving me alone in our big two-story house at the end of the cul-de-sac. Ours wasn't the typical open circle, instead a patch of grass and trees sat in the middle like a tiny island. The streetlights threw long shadows across it as I drove around toward the driveway, headlights gliding over empty windows and parked cars that seemed to watch me back. My hands tightened on the steering wheel as the message flashed on my screen. AirTag found moving with you. My heart dropped. I'd heard about stories like this online, people being tracked, followed. Was someone doing that to me? And the quiet streets suddenly felt too empty, too dark. Instead of pulling into the driveway, I made a slow circle and drove back out of the cul-de-sac, eyes darting to every passing car, every flicker of movement in my mirrors. The sound was faint, but sharp, beep, 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 coming not from under the car, but from one of my shopping bags on the passenger seat. My stomach flipped. I grabbed the Sephora bag, tore through the tissue paper, and there it was, a small white AirTag resting among the receipts and perfume boxes. My hands started shaking so hard I nearly dropped it. For a second I couldn't breathe. Someone had slipped this into my bag, and I knew exactly when it must have happened. I tossed the AirTag out the window like it was burning my hand, watching it bounce once on the pavement before disappearing into the dark. My heart was pounding as I sped home, tires crunching over the frozen asphalt. Pulling into the driveway, I hit the garage button, praying for somewhere to hide the car, but my mom's SUV filled the space completely. For a moment I just sat there, trembling behind the wheel, before bolting inside and locking every door behind me. I double-checked every lock before calling Cody, my voice shaking as I explained what happened. He didn't laugh or brush it off, just said, "If anyone shows up, call me immediately." The seriousness in his voice sent a chill through me. I could tell he'd been drinking, but even through the slur I heard it genuine fear. That scared me more than the AirTag itself. I froze mid-step, my pulse pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. The doorbell still echoed faintly when 3 heavy knocks followed deliberate patient. "Hey Ashley, I think you might have my AirTag," came a muffled voice from the other side. My stomach turned to ice. Nobody knew my name, at least nobody who should have been outside my house this late. I crept closer, staring at the frosted glass, and a faint silhouette shifted beyond it. That voice. It was the man from the mall. I didn't answer. I didn't even breathe. His voice grew louder, echoing through the hallway, still insisting it was a mistake. But I knew better. My skin crawled as I backed away from the door, every instinct screaming that he wasn't leaving anytime soon. I grabbed my phone with trembling hands and called Cody again, praying he'd pick up before that man tried something worse. I hung up and tried to steady my breathing, heart pounding so hard it hurt. 10 minutes, that's what Cody said. Just 10 minutes. But every second stretched endlessly as I stood in the dim hallway listening for footsteps outside. The house felt too big, too quiet. I kept glancing at the door, praying he'd already left, yet terrified that any sound might prove he hadn't. Relief washed over me when I saw the glass empty, no shadow, no shape. Maybe he'd finally left. I turned on the TV, volume low, but steady, hoping the noise would make the house feel less hollow. The flickering light from the screen painted the walls in restless colors. I tried to focus on it, anything but the door, until something moved in the corner of my vision, a faint shift that froze me cold. My stomach dropped. His face was inches away, distorted by the glass, his grin wide and cruel. The porch light caught the wrinkles around his eyes, making him look more sinister than before. For a second I couldn't move. I just sat, frozen, heart hammering so violently it drowned out the TV. Then, instinct took over. I scrambled off the couch, stumbling backward, the sound of his slow tapping following me like a pulse. My hands were trembling so badly that I nearly dropped the phone while dialing. The operator's calm voice felt worlds away as I stammered out my address, eyes still locked on that sinister smile through the glass. He didn't move, just stood there, fogging up the window with every breath. When I finally heard the dispatcher say help was on the way, I bolted from the room, desperate to find a place without windows. For a moment I thought my mind was playing tricks. The window was empty, no face, no shadow, only the faint outline of his breath fading from the glass. Cody checked every door, every corner, but there was nothing. The silence that followed was almost worse than his presence. I could still feel his stare lingering somewhere outside, unseen but terrifyingly close. The officer's visit should have made me feel safer, but it didn't. The empty yard and clean glass only deepened the unease. The next morning I called Apple as instructed, hoping for answers, or at least a trace. Instead, I was met with endless forms, legal jargon, and waiting lists. Every delay felt like the man slipping further away, leaving me trapped between relief and dread, unsure if he'd ever truly gone. Time passed and the silence became its own kind of comfort. I told myself it was over, that he'd gotten scared off and vanished. But late at night, when the house was quiet and shadows moved just right, my mind would replay his smile and that photo on his phone. The girl's face haunted me, frozen in innocence. I still pray she was just a stranger, not someone who never got the chance to leave. Some memories don't fade, they carve themselves into you, changing who you are forever. My name is Claire, and what happened to me still lingers like a shadow I can't shake. It wasn't recent, but not long enough ago to stop haunting me. I wish I could say I've moved on, but I haven't. The truth is, what I experienced didn't just scare me, it rewired me. I'm not who I was before, and I doubt I ever will be again. The city had quickly become routine, same roads, same buildings, same quiet hum of traffic. Nothing about that night felt unusual at first. The sky was fading to a dull gray, streetlights flickering on as I pulled up to a red light. My favorite podcast was mid-sentence when the buzz from my phone broke through. I glanced down expecting a text or email from work, but instead saw a notification I'd never seen before: AirTag found moving with you. My grip on the steering wheel tightened as the words sank in. Over an hour. That meant it hadn't just appeared, it had been with me since before I even left work. A chill ran through me as I replayed the day in my head. The parking lot. The elevator. The quick stop at the coffee shop. Had someone planted it then, I pulled over to the side of the road, heart racing, staring at the screen like it might explain itself. It didn't. That creeping realization hit me like a wave. Someone had put it there on purpose. My stomach twisted as I scanned every corner of the car again, convinced I'd missed something. Nothing. Just my usual clutter, a coffee cup, a jacket, a few receipts. Yet somewhere unseen, that tiny device was tracking me, watching me. My pulse thundered in my ears. Whoever did this didn't just want to follow my route. They wanted to know me, to find out exactly where I lived. Every second of that drive felt like a trap closing in. My eyes flicked between the rearview mirror and the dark street behind me, half expecting to see headlights following. I parked a few blocks away before daring to pull into my complex, hoping to throw off whoever might be watching. When I finally reached my apartment lot, I tore through the car like a maniac, lifting mats, checking under seats, even prying open side panels. Still nothing. Just that same, silent, suffocating fear filling the air. I told myself the odds of it being random were higher than I thought. Maybe it had fallen into my car somehow, a glitch, a mix-up. Anything but the alternative. I took a few deep breaths, trying to quiet the thudding in my chest. Still, every creak from outside made me flinch. Logic was one thing, but fear didn't care about logic. Still pretending nothing was wrong didn't make it true. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped. Every unfamiliar car parked near my building made me uneasy. By the time I reached work, I'd convinced myself to act normal, to not let paranoia win. But that same notification appearing again the next morning shattered that illusion. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen, realizing this wasn't random. Someone was still tracking me, and they wanted me to know it. By the end of that hour, my car looked like it had been torn apart. Seats pushed forward, mats flipped, compartments emptied, nothing. Frustration turned into fear, the kind that sits heavy in your chest. I started wondering if whoever planted it had come back to move it. The thought made my skin crawl. It wasn't just about finding a tracker anymore. It was about reclaiming control. The small disc felt heavier than it should have, like it carried every ounce of dread I'd been holding in. I set it on the counter, staring at it as if it might start blinking again. Even with the battery removed, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still watching. I locked every door, every window, but peace didn't come. That AirTag had already done its job. It made me feel hunted. Every name that crossed my mind only made me more paranoid. An old coworker, a neighbor, even a stranger from the coffee shop. The idea that someone out there knew my roots, my habits, my life was unbearable. I barely slept, jolting awake at every sound outside. Each creak of the building felt deliberate, as if someone was out there waiting. By morning, exhaustion had settled in, but so had a terrifying certainty this wasn't over. My heart dropped. The hallway light spilled into my apartment, illuminating the edge of a shoe I didn't recognize just inside the doorframe. For a few seconds, I couldn't move. Every instinct screamed at me to run. I stepped back quietly, my keys still clutched in my shaking hand. Whoever was inside could still be there. I turned and bolted for the stairs, my pulse pounding in my ears. Still, the officers could see how shaken I was. One of them suggested maybe I'd forgotten to lock the door, but I knew that wasn't true. I always double-checked. They left after filing a quick report, but the silence that followed was unbearable. Every creak of the floor, every gust against the window felt like proof that someone had been there and maybe was planning to come back. They jotted notes, exchanged looks, and told me they'd keep an eye on it, which didn't comfort me at all. As they left, I realized how small my apartment felt, every corner suddenly suspicious, every shadow too deep. I locked the door again and sat on the couch with the lights on, clutching my phone, half expecting another AirTag alert to appear any second. Even now, months later, I still catch myself checking under my car and double-locking every door before bed. I changed cities, changed routines, even changed my phone, but I can't change that feeling. The idea that someone once watched me so closely, knew my routes, my habits, my home, it's like a stain you can't ever scrub away. Stories like mine aren't just cautionary tales. They're reminders that danger doesn't always break down the door. Sometimes it walks right through it with a key. I still check every lock twice, not because I expect someone to return, but because I know they once could. Trust once stolen is harder to replace than any lost item, and that's what truly haunts me. Some stories haunt you not because of ghosts, but because of people and what they're capable of. Mine began in a quiet, comfortable suburb, the kind of place where you'd never expect your world to collapse. Yet over the course of a few months, that's exactly what happened. What started as a misunderstanding spiraled into chaos so deep it nearly destroyed my life legally, mentally, and emotionally. At first, the breakup felt like any other messy emotional but survivable. I told myself that time would fix everything, that Devin and I would eventually fade from each other's lives. But looking back now, I realized that was the moment the nightmare began. There were signs, little things I brushed off, strange texts, familiar cars parked near my place. I thought it was coincidence. It wasn't. Zenon was the kind of guy who lived like the rules didn't apply to him. Mansion parties, expensive toys, endless drama. After my breakup, his place became my escape. He said I needed a distraction, and he was more than happy to provide one. Every weekend felt like a movie, loud music, strangers, and too much alcohol to think straight. Looking back, I wish I'd skipped that one particular night. The night I saw Taylor felt almost scripted, like fate was playing a cruel joke. The music was pounding, lights flashing, people dancing everywhere, and then there she was standing by the bar with that familiar smirk. I hadn't seen her since before the breakup, and my first instinct was to walk the other way. But she caught my eye before I could, and suddenly avoiding her wasn't an option anymore. At first I thought she was just being friendly, maybe a little tipsy, maybe trying to make small talk. But the longer we talked, the clearer it became that she had something else in mind. Her laugh lingered too long, her hand brushed my arm too often, and her eyes, they didn't look away. I couldn't help but feel uneasy, but curiosity and maybe pride kept me from walking off. It wasn't my proudest moment, but in that haze of alcohol and ego, judgment didn't stand a chance. The music downstairs drowned out everything, even the part of me screaming that this was a bad idea. Taylor laughed, pulled me closer, and the rest blurred into heat and noise. By the time I realized how reckless it was already far too late. Panic hit me fast, slicing through the leftover buzz. I checked the bed, the floor, even under the nightstand, nothing. My wallet was gone. The realization sobered me instantly. I pushed through the crowd, scanning every face under the flashing lights, but Taylor had vanished like smoke. For the first time that night, something felt truly off, and it wasn't just the alcohol. Frustration started to boil beneath the panic. I paced the room, replaying every moment, every word, trying to convince myself she hadn't actually taken it. Maybe I dropped it somewhere. But deep down, I knew better. Pulling out my phone, I opened her contact only to be greeted by that same gray blocked notification. Somehow, that made everything feel 10 times worse. So I pushed the thought aside, convincing myself it wasn't worth ruining the night over. The music was loud, the drinks kept flowing, and the crowd blurred back into motion. Maybe it was ego, maybe denial, but I laughed, danced, and tried to forget about the missing wallet. For a little while, it actually worked. Until morning came and reality hit me like a brick. My head was pounding, the kind of hangover that makes you regret every decision from the night before. But the moment I saw that little AirTag icon glowing on my phone, the haze lifted. Relief mixed with curiosity, finally I could track it down. I threw on some clothes, grabbed my keys, and decided this was my chance to settle things once and for all. It felt like someone was toying with me, like they knew I was coming. I stood there in the parking lot, staring at my phone as the signal vanished. 1 second it was active, the next it was gone. My gut twisted. Coincidence didn't feel like a good enough answer anymore. Still, I wasn't ready to give up, not when I was this close. The gym lights reflected off the glass, making it hard to see inside, but I still scanned every corner like a man possessed. Dozens of strangers lifting weights, chatting, running, but no Taylor. My pulse quickened with every step. Maybe she'd seen me pull in. Maybe she was hiding. The idea sent a chill through me that no hangover could cause. The drive home felt longer than usual, quiet, heavy, like the world itself was holding its breath. I kept glancing at my phone, half hoping the AirTag would light up again, half dreading it might, but it stayed dark. By the time I pulled into my driveway, I'd convinced myself it wasn't worth obsessing over anymore. Still, somewhere deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Losing a wallet didn't feel like the end, it felt like the beginning of something worse. My heart raced as I followed the map, the little blue dot, inching closer to the park's green outline. It was a quiet place, mostly empty except for a few joggers and kids on bikes. The AirTag signal pulsed strong, taunting me like it wanted to be found. I parked, scanning the area, expecting to see Taylor or someone waiting. Instead, the moment I stepped out of the car, the signal vanished again, leaving only silence and that creeping, nauseating dread. Every turn of the path felt like chasing a ghost. The AirTag's silence mocked me, each second stretching into frustration. I checked benches, trash cans, even under a picnic table, earning strange looks from passers-by. My heart pounded, not from running, but from the creeping sense that someone was watching. Whoever was behind this wasn't just toying with me, they were enjoying it. That thought alone made the air around me feel colder. I scanned the park one last time, trees swaying, a few people walking dogs, nothing out of place, yet the feeling only grew heavier. My palms were slick, my breath shallow. I got into the car and locked the doors, glancing at every mirror like a paranoid fool. The idea that someone was tracking me, timing me, watching from somewhere unseen, it rooted itself deep in my mind and never really left. Learning that made my skin crawl. The idea of someone deliberately turning the tracker on and off, knowing exactly how I'd react, felt personal, almost cruel. I sat there, staring at my laptop screen, the glow reflecting off my tired eyes, realizing I was part of someone's twisted game. Still, morning would come and I'd have to pretend everything was normal. The crash was so sharp it sliced through the silence, a single violent noise that sent adrenaline surging through me. For a second I thought I'd imagined it, but then came the unmistakable sound of footsteps downstairs. My heart was hammering, breath caught in my throat. Every instinct screamed at me to hide, but another part, the stubborn, terrified one, needed to see. I reached for my phone, hands trembling, and crept toward the door. The sounds downstairs grew louder, drawers slamming glass, crunching underfoot, something heavy being dragged. Each noise stabbed through the silence, reminding me that this was real. I pressed my ear against the door, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my skull. I prayed the police would hurry, but minutes felt like hours. Every creak of the floorboards below made me fear the next sound would be footsteps coming up the stairs. When the officers finally let me leave the room, the place looked like a hurricane had passed through. My desk drawers were overturned, my TV shattered, papers scattered everywhere. One officer told me the intruder probably knew what they were looking for, that it wasn't random. That thought chilled me more than anything. Whoever had done this hadn't just broken in, they'd come for me. For a while, life went back to normal, or at least it pretended to. Work, gym, dinner, sleep. But the unease never left. Some nights I'd wake up certain I'd heard movement downstairs, only to find nothing. The AirTag staying offline should have been comforting, but instead, it felt like silence before a storm, as if whoever had started this was just waiting for the perfect time to strike again. The moment I parked and stepped onto the sidewalk, my phone buzzed. The AirTag had just gone offline again. My stomach dropped. It was the exact same pattern. I scanned the crowded entrance faces blending under neon lights, wondering if one of them was watching me right then. That mix of anger and fear hit all over again. I knew I was being played. People started backing away, whispering, their eyes full of judgment or fear. I didn't care, I just wanted answers. My voice kept getting louder until the music from inside drowned me out. Then someone shouted for security, and that's when it hit me. I'd completely lost control. Whoever was behind this wasn't just toying with me anymore. They were making me look insane. Outside, the cold air hit me like a slap, but it didn't calm me down. I stood there on the curb watching the neon lights blur through my tears of rage. My heart was pounding, my hands shaking, not from fear, but humiliation. For the first time, I realized that whoever was behind this had total control over me, and I was dancing exactly how they wanted. It was a quiet morning when the knock came calm, polite, almost rehearsed. 2 officers stood at my door, and for a moment I thought they were following up on the break-in. But when they said they had an arrest warrant in my name, the floor seemed to vanish beneath me. My throat went dry as they read the charges: stalking, harassment, criminal intimidation. I remember laughing, not because it was funny, but because it was impossible. I stood frozen as they read the warrant aloud, my mind blank, except for one thought: this had to be some mistake. I let them in still, half in disbelief, while they began tearing through my room like a crime scene. They opened every drawer, every box, and I kept insisting I didn't even own a journal, but nothing I said mattered. When one officer suddenly called out, "Found it," my stomach dropped. As the car pulled away, I stared blankly out the window, trying to process what had just happened. My hands were trembling in the cuffs, and all I could think was that someone had set me up, but who? By the time we reached the station, dread had settled deep in my gut. I didn't know it yet, but my life was about to completely unravel. Photos, texts, and even call logs, all fabricated but terrifyingly convincing. She had screenshots showing me messaging her at all hours, pleading, threatening, confessing. I couldn't believe it. Every piece of evidence looked authentic, and every denial I made sounded hollow. Friends stopped returning my calls. My parents didn't know what to think. I felt like I was being erased and rewritten as someone else. She even had fake text threads between us, messages I had never sent where I sounded obsessive, unstable, dangerous. Then came the phone records calls that supposedly lasted minutes, but I never made them. It was like she'd built an entire alternate reality around me. The more I saw, the more hopeless it felt. Every bit of evidence turned my innocence into something that looked undeniably guilty. Reading those messages made my stomach twist. They were filled with vile language, threats, and fake apologies that I'd never written. She even attached timestamps that matched my real schedule, times I was asleep at work or out with friends. Somehow she'd planned it all perfectly. Every fabricated text made me look more like a predator and less like a victim. Every time I tried to defend myself, it only made me look worse, like a guilty man scrambling for excuses. Friends who'd known me for years started avoiding me. My boss put me on leave until things were resolved. It was humiliating. Devon had crafted the perfect trap, a narrative where she was the fragile victim and I was the monster destroying her life. It wasn't even my handwriting. The letters were sharp and slanted, nothing like mine. But the cops didn't care. To them, it was undeniable proof. My lawyer flipped through the pages in silence, his face pale. Every word felt like a nail sealing my coffin. The more I denied it, the more insane I sounded. Devon had turned fiction into evidence. I remember sitting in that cold interrogation room, staring at the table, wondering if this was how my life ended, not with violence, but with lies. My parents stopped returning my calls, and even my closest friends went silent. I wasn't just losing my freedom, I was losing who I was. Devon had stolen more than my reputation, she'd stolen my identity. The confession cracked everything open. He even showed the detectives their text messages, Devon's instructions written out like a blueprint for my downfall. In those messages, she bragged about how easy it was to make me look guilty, how everyone believes a crying woman. I felt equal parts fury and relief. After months of hell, someone had finally exposed the truth. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't a stalker. I was just a pawn in her twisted revenge game. That detail broke me. The idea that she'd held onto my trust long enough to make a copy of my key, it felt like a violation deeper than anything else. She'd been planning this for months, maybe even before we broke up. The police later found footage from a neighbor's security camera showing her entering my house at night. Seeing that grainy image of her walking in so casually made my blood run cold. Every memory with her turned poisonous. When she finally confessed, it wasn't some emotional breakdown, it was cold, calculated indifference. She told the police she did it because he deserved it, like ruining my life was a moral duty. Hearing that made me feel sick. The detectives recovered my laptop from her apartment, filled with drafts of fake messages and journal pages written in my name. Every stroke of her keyboard had been another nail in the coffin she built for me. It was twisted, but it made a disturbing kind of sense. Devon had thought through every step, every excuse, every alibi. She turned technology lies and timing into weapons. The prosecutor said if that guy hadn't come forward, she might have actually gotten away with it. That realization haunted me, the idea that one woman's obsession and intelligence nearly destroyed my entire life. I wasn't sure which was scarier, her cruelty or her brilliance. Even after being cleared, I still felt like a ghost haunting my own life. People didn't look at me the same, some avoided me entirely, others pretended nothing happened. My parents tried, but I could see the doubt behind their eyes. Online rumors spread faster than the truth ever could. Clearing my name legally was one thing. Earning back trust was impossible. I learned that innocence doesn't always erase the stain of accusation. Sometimes I lie awake thinking about how close I came to losing everything, my job, my freedom, even my sanity, all because of one person's obsession. It taught me that monsters don't always hide in the dark. Sometimes they smile, say they love you, and know your passwords. Every notification, every unexpected knock at the door still sends a chill through me. Freedom came back, but peace never did. Sometimes I wonder how close I came to losing everything. One man's conscience saved me, but my trust in people never recovered. Thank you for staying until the end. If the dark didn't scare you away, maybe you belong here. Subscribe to Night Whispers and let the darkness find you again next time.